Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello, and welcome to episode 43 of the Queen City Music Podcast. If you like your jam bands with a bit of island flair, then you'll enjoy this month's interview. I'm speaking with Carolina Vibes, who weave reggae and rock into the jam band genre. The band features Marsha Browning on lead vocals and keyboards, Chris Browning on guitar and lead vocals, Paul Tharp on bass, and Beatty Mullican on drums. Let's get to it. Carolina Vibes, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you spending a little bit of your Sunday afternoon with me. How is everybody?
Yeah.
Great, man.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Yeah.
All right. So I usually ask the first question to everybody. Are you guys originally from the Charlotte area? Marsha?
Yes, I think I'm the only one of the band that's actually from this area. I grew up in Gaston County. I've been here for many years.
All right. Chris?
I'm not from the Charlotte area. I'm from South Carolina. I'm from a little town called Orangeburg out in the country.
Paul?
I'm from Northern Illinois originally. Been in the Carolinas for over a decade.
Okay. And Beatty?
I'm actually from right down the road in Anderson, South Carolina, and been up here in Charlotte for about 5-6 years now.
All right. And as I was joking before we started, Paul is the token northerner in the band. So
Yeah.
Everybody has one.
So guys, can you fill me in a little bit just about your musical background individually? You don't have to go too in depth, but how did you guys get into it? Beatty, how did you get into drum playing?
Pots and pans as a kid. No, for real, I was always into music and begged my parents for a drum set. Actually, I was in middle school band and I got the snare part. So I started out playing snare and then finally got a drum kit and it was off from there. I'm kind of self-taught. I've been playing for like 15 years. So you think I'd be a little bit better.
I say the same thing about playing guitar.
But yeah, I mean, it was a passion from the beginning and, I just ran with it and, it's been working out so far.
Very cool. Hey, Paul, how about you? How'd you get into bass?
Well, like Beatty, I'm a music lover, so I guess I'm a listener first, and I've always loved music since I was a kid, and just being a music lover, I wanted to play music, and just the bands that I started out in, that was what was needed, and there was even a moment, in high school where my two friends took me to the music store and we all pitched in and that was the first bass that I owned.
It was the community bass, is that what you're saying?
It was the community bass. If it worked out with me, then I would be the bassist, and if not, at least they would have a bass. They could buy out my interest in it. But it worked out, and so that's how it got started. It was just what was needed, and I enjoyed the bass part. I think after I started playing the bass, I noticed it more in the music that I had already grown up loving, and maybe the Beatles would be a good example of that. Like, I loved the Beatles, but I had never sat and listened to how complicated the bass lines were that McCartney was doing in a lot of the songs. But after I started playing, I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Okay. Chris, how'd you get into guitar playing and singing?
Oh, well, I started playing guitar when I was probably about 11 years old. I was a little hellion, so I had to find something to do that was going to keep me out of trouble. And one of my dad's friends, he played, like bluegrass style music, and that's what I learned on that, playing Creedence Clearwater and Neil Young, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And like everybody else, I've always been a music lover of all kinds, and probably it wasn't too long after we turned into Carolina Vibes in 2017. That's about the time I started writing songs. I was never a songwriter beforehand. I was always really nervous and kind of shy about singing and letting that side out. And ever since then it's just been going strong.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to grow into things. I know exactly what you're saying about the songwriting. I mean, I've just started writing stuff for an EP of my own, and it's not anything I ever felt the urge to do. And then the last couple of years, I've said, well, let's try to do this. It might be the next step, to move things along. So I think everybody comes to things in their own good time, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Marcia, fill us in of singing. Is that something you've been doing since like elementary school, middle school, choir, that kind of thing?
Yep, exactly. Yep. I sang my first solo in church when I was 9 years old, up in front of the whole congregation, and ever since then, I played a little bit of trumpet and saxophone when I was that age. But then when I got into junior high school and joined the chorus, I just sang all the time. It was singing in school, anything I could get into after school, singing in all of the forms at my church when I was growing up. I've just always been a musician, always been a singer. It's in my family. Almost everyone in my family are all musicians in one way or another, so it's in my blood.
So guys, how did you get together as the Carolina Vibes? I know we spoke briefly before we started recording about who met who and how that came about. Can you guys revisit that for us?
And we'll let Paul take that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
like many bands, we all come from like other bands that predated this band, and personnel knew each other from prior experiences. But
Right.
Chris and I got together in a 3-piece band, I think 8 years ago, and then he brought Marcia on as a singer, and we played as a cover band, and we went through a number of different drummers as a cover band. Beatty and I had met playing on another project, and then we needed Beatty to fill in with what was called at the time the Tabs. That was our name as a cover band.
Yeah.
We liked Beatty so much that we all voted to say let's make Beatty the permanent drummer if he wants to be that. And that was around the time we started playing original music.
Yeah.
We made a decision at one point that, let's keep playing the cover gigs, but let's develop the original stuff on the side and eventually go that direction full time.
Yeah.
And that was around the time that Beatty came into the groove. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of developed as a different band as Carolina Vibes. It was like a kind of rebirth, if you will, at the same time when Beatty came on, and also our new direction towards kind of an all-original arrangement.
So when you guys came together and started making that decision to do original stuff, did you guys start to have a vision of the style? Because we talked a bit about you guys being like a rock, reggae, and a jam band, but did you have that vision at first to say, hey, I love island music, we definitely got to put some reggae in here? Or was that something that just kind of naturally came out for you?
Yeah, I'm a huge reggae fan. And the reggae music does come very natural to me for some reason. I guess I'm lucky. And so, yeah, whenever we started off, that's kind of what it was, kind of a reggae ska kind of thing. I think one of the first songs we wrote was a song called Mars.
Yeah.
And that you guys, everybody will hear that here later on. And that was kind of a ska reggae kind of feel. So, that's the direction that we kind of went. And, we're Paul and I, especially, we were into the jam band music. He's a Deadhead, and I love the Dead, and I'm also a huge Fish head.
Oh yeah, we get a lot of inspiration, I think, from Fish. I think we've all kind of just over the past couple of years just kind of dove head first, and that's kind of how our music has been evolving as well. We find ourselves just going off and letting the music happen and see where it goes.
So you guys really incorporate jamming into the tunes that you write. Do you know when it's going to happen? Do you have specific sections of tunes that you say, oh, this is the jam out part, like we know after this, whatever, first verse, after the chorus, this is our solo lead section we go in?
Yeah, but it's not it might be planned for when it's going to happen, but how it happens is completely random. Whatever happens kind of happens.
Yeah.
Just let depending on if we're playing in front of people, it depends on how the crowd's feeling it. If they're feeling it, we're definitely going to feel it, and we're going to try to keep it going.
Right. Hey, you mentioned it, Chris. Let's get into it. Let's take a listen to the track you sent over, Mars.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
to know what's the songwriting process for you guys? How does that work?
It varies. We kind of all do like individual writing, and then we bring it together to a practice, and we'll say, here's something that we came up with. What do you guys think of this? Where can we go with this? And that happens a lot.
So is there a main songwriter, or everybody just got ideas and lyrics, and you all come together and put it into this tune?
There are 3 songwriters. We're trying to pull Beatty in on that too. But right now there's 3 of us and 3 completely different styles. Yeah.
I would say Paul and Chris are the main songwriters. I think.
As far as like songwriting mode, though, like there's not any one way that any of our songs happened. And for all 3 of us, we've had songs that like, okay, this is done. Here's a song for the group. And the group's been picked up immediately and everybody likes it. And then there's been other songs where maybe someone just had an idea and other ideas were incorporated live and became the song. And there's been all kinds of variations of how the songs have come together. Mm-hmm. But the key is, kind of going back to a previous question of yours, as far as the style and the way we do the music, that was something we never really had to sit down on and decide on. Maybe that's why we all kind of agree on everything, because I think we all like the same kind of music, and it just comes out naturally, the way you might hear us play it.
We kind of just follow the music, and we're all like-minded musically. There's no plan, really. It just happens.
So when you guys are writing, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, you guys are putting together an album. Even the tunes that you've recorded, the original tunes at this point, have you guys gone into a studio, or have you been recording it like a lot of folks doing the recording at home yourselves?
We've been doing our own recording. Paul does our recordings for us.
Okay. Yeah, like many musicians, we've all learned different recording skills over time. Because to get gigs initially, you got to have some type of product to have, so inevitably we all obtained this kind of small mountain of recording material, and we use that to put together recordings that we've used for all types of things, including the forthcoming studio album.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah, you guys were saying that you had a lot of material for it. And here's a question I've been throwing at a couple of different groups. It seems like the current trend has been to put out an EP or even singles instead of a full-length album. Are you guys thinking about any of that, or are you definitely on the idea of we're going to put out a full-length album? Because I know some groups, they'll put out an EP, and then the next year they've already got the same a set of material since they had written it already, so they can put out 2 albums right away rather than put out one big album and have to come out with other stuff. Do you guys have any thoughts on that current trend, or reasons that you want to put out a full-length album?
Well, we have as a band, we have over 30 songs. So putting out, if we were to put out a 8-song album, it would that wouldn't hurt us as far as having enough material. Like other bands, maybe they don't have quite as much.
Yeah. I would like the idea of doing more music at a time instead of just singles. We haven't really.
Some of my favorite albums are like double albums, like the White Album, or
that's true.
Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by Smashing Pumpkins.
And once we get a good name for ourselves, we'll probably release singles and things like that. But for now, we have so much material. We're moving so fast. We want to get as much as we have out there as soon as possible for people to hear.
Just share it with everyone.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's the Wild West right now. Everybody's doing something different. The way it was explained to me, I was talking to Joe from the Pluto Gang. They're another kind of jam soul funk band in Charlotte, and they were on the podcast the other month. And he was explaining to me that a lot of stuff, when you listen to Spotify now, they want singles. Like, even if you put out an EP or an album, they really want singles just to push that aspect of it. So a lot of bands are doing stuff differently. Another band I know, they put out, an EP, and then these other folks, they're putting out full length. So it's like, there's not one set thing that anybody's doing today, which is kind of weird. But that's just the state of the music industry. So when you guys got together and you started vibing as the Carolina Vibes, how did you come up with the name?
I think I'm the one that came up with the name, and I'd say unfortunately there's no crazy story behind it. We live in the Carolinas, and I like the vibe. I think that's just a cool word and a cool word for music, and that's just how it came to me.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Just kind of popped in, and you were like, let's do it, and everybody was agreeable.
Yeah, it did happen that way. Yeah. When he said it, I was like, that's it. That's the name, and I sent it, and everybody liked it.
That's great, because you know what? Most bands, they come up, they have, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. There's always some back and forth with it. And for 4 people to agree?
When we were the cover band, we did go back and forth about what to call that name. And I was working at a restaurant at that time when I was a manager, so I even polled my staff and wrote and I just put on the board, what kind of name should we name our band? And of course it was all nonsense and crazy stuff. But then I think Paul eventually figured out that name for the cover band.
Hey guys, can we check out the next tune that you guys sent over?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Getaway by Carolina Vibes.
If you're living life by the freeway, working every day to pay, then you need a getaway. Sunrise on the ocean side, the moon brings in this morning's tide. We're just 2 lovers holding hands. Wet feet and sandy toes, you know where the story goes. We met playing in this little band. She's got beach hair, but she don't care. Just breathe in the ocean air. We can chill and watch the waves. Subside, I love those deep inside like satellites. That's right, go around the
songwriting process for it. Who wrote it? How did it come together?
So that was Getaway.
Yeah. This is a song that I wrote the main lines for it. The little hook, Marcia wrote, and there's the ending words is from Paul. But the process for that is I was sitting here at my house, which I live out in the country. The words they just came to me. I wrote that one by myself with an acoustic guitar, sitting out. And Marcia, we're married, and when she came home from work, I played that, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you have to send that one over to everybody right there." Mm-hmm. And just like all the other songs, it just grew into what it is now. Which that and in my opinion, that one's one of my favorite ones. That's one of my favorite songs that I've written.
Yeah, I always go back and forth with that one, if that one's my favorite or not. That one's a really good one.
So if you're doing a song like Getaway, and let's say Chris comes up with all the main parts, do you guys, when it comes together at the band, are you just waiting, Chris, for everybody to put their stink on it so it comes to get that Carolina vibe sound? Or are you kind of guiding and be like, guys, I want to kind of hear this and I want to hear this. I have a vision for it already.
Well, so sometimes we do have a vision for it. That one in particular, I can't remember if there was really a vision. Usually they start out very simple. Just your typical little beat coming in, and mm-hmm. And we let it evolve. We'll sit here at practice, and we go over and over it, yeah. And just see what happens. But no, there's not really for that one. There wasn't really a set way. I don't think that one was written.
And I think like each time we practice it, something new came about, and we added it to it each time, and everyone had an idea, and we just kind of would jam it in the practice and just see where it goes. And we always record our practices so we can go back and know what we've done.
Wow, that's a good idea. A lot of folks might not do that. I know, particularly, I'll be playing something and somebody will be like, "What is that?" I'll be like, "I have no idea what I just played. It just comes out and you don't even think about it." So, hey guys, I've been kind of dipping into it with the last couple of podcasts with folks about social media and the role it plays with bands. How does it affect you guys? Because today, you got Instagram, you got Facebook, Twitter. and not to mention YouTube. How is social media playing a role for the Carolina Vibes?
Baby, Paul?
Well, we use social media, but we're not the best at it, I would say. I feel there's a lot of techniques out there, marketing techniques that we've been trying to learn. We post, when we have shows, we definitely post that we're having shows, things like that. But, we also have full-time jobs. So it takes a lot of work to really get a name going on social media. And we're getting there. We're learning as we go. Yeah. But we use it as much as we can to our advantage.
It's a forum like everything else. But, so far our reach is very localized to begin with. Mm-hmm. It's just a forum. We also still go and post posters of upcoming shows nearby the venues where we're going to play the old-fashioned way. Yeah. So social media is an effective forum. Yeah. It hasn't displaced the old methods. It's something we try to utilize, but we don't have a grand. It kind of goes back to the question about the tracks and whether it's going to be an EP or an LP. We don't really have much of a business plan. And it's not a self-criticism. It's more we just love playing music, and we're going to get together and keep doing this thing and putting everything together. But I don't think that we put a ton of thought into the social media and the business affairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of bands today. I think a lot of folks are really figuring it out. Like, maybe the younger folks really have it mastered. There's a couple of people off the top of my head, man, they are bam, 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 bam. They're always with it. But I'm kind of old school in that sense. Is I really wonder what effect social media has on the music. I mean, the ultimate thing is, are people coming out to your show, or are you selling the album? And is social media pushing that for the band? I don't know.
Yeah. I was going to say something about that. It's easy to get somebody to give you a follow and like your post, but to actually get them to physically get out of their house and come and see us and hear music, live and in person, that's the hard part. That's the really hard part.
We're all living through the strange time with COVID. And it hit last year. And I can honestly tell you, the prior year, not 2020, but the prior year in 2019, I was playing a lot. More than I had in my career. So, but then I started to slow down a little bit just because my own personal thing. But then COVID hit. And I know it kind of slammed everybody against the wall. For me, I play in smaller groups. So I'm playing, as I told you earlier, if I'm doing solo acoustic guitar, I can stick in a corner somewhere and be socially distanced. And even with a duo, the same thing. But you guys are a fuller band. You're a 4-piece. How has COVID really impacted you guys as playing?
Of course, like everybody else, we lost out on a lot of the opportunities and things we had on the schedule. And it was looking like it was going to be a good summer tour, quote unquote tour. Right. We had a couple festivals that we were going to try to get into, and of course we had that going against us.
The COVID, of course, has caused problems for every band. We had a lot of shows booked. We did have 2 festivals that were booked that we were going to be playing in West Virginia and one down in Florida, and these were all for local bands. And both of those got stomped, and the shows that we've got since COVID has been here, they've been outdoor shows. That like I told you, we live out here in the country. We've had a couple of shows out here at our place, in the backyard, and
live stream them.
Yeah, live stream them. And who was that? The Go Now.
Go Now.
Yeah, we did a show for those guys. They came out here and filmed us. But yeah, it's been tough with COVID, man. I'm ready for it to be behind us. I'm sure all musicians are ready for it to be behind us. It's so hard, even where you can have music. It's so hard to get people to come out. Even to just have a drink these days. So everybody's hoping that it gets behind us and we can see this as a lesson learned and move forward.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of, at least for musicians, we're kind of hoping for the warmer weather. So in the very least, we can get out and play outside, and even if people can social distance that way.
I was just going to say, we've been, using it as a positive as much as we could and wrote 10 songs this year. Nice.
Well, that's kind of been it for a lot of groups. I think a lot of people have been, focused on, if I'm not out playing, I might as well be recording. So, and getting that going. So guys, what do you guys have planned coming up for yourselves? Anything coming up for 2021 that you know about that you, I know you've been in the studio and you've been recording and writing. What's coming up for 2021?
Well, we've started getting in with these people. Is it Rexy Rock Entertainment, and we're trying to get some shows with those guys. I think we've got a couple things in the works for some, I think they're upstate South Carolina shows. They haven't been set in stone yet, so we haven't put anything up about them. But we're hoping that works out for us. We're trying to get in with some of the entertainment companies in Myrtle Beach. We played a show or two out there a couple of months back, and we had a good time out there. So we're hoping that that's one of the areas we can try to get into, and hopefully some of these Charlotte places get opened back up so we can get back and do some of these local shows and get some of these local people back out.
How can we get in touch with you guys if folks want to book the Carolina Vibes or find out more about you? Where do we get in touch?
We're on all the social media platforms, at least the big ones. We're at Facebook. It's Carolina Vibes NC. Instagram is the same thing. You can email us at carolinavibes.nc2017.com.
No, at gmail.com.
At Gmail, excuse me.
Yeah. Subscribe on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
And there should be links to all that on carolinavibesnc.com.
Okay. Yeah, you guys were talking about earlier that you guys have a lot of video footage up of shows that you've done. Can you just touch on that real briefly?
Yeah, well, at carolinavibesnc.com, we have all our audio of all our live shows going back to 2018. And I think there's probably at least 50 shows on there. And then as far as video, we have, Reverb Nation / Carolina Vibes. Mm-hmm. We've got a bunch of video and audio on there, including some old studio tracks that we had done. And then also on our social media, we have some complete shows on video also on our Facebook page, which is also Carolina Vibes NC. So there's a lot of material out there if people want to listen. And then of course here in the next few months we should be issuing a studio length recording. Do
you guys have a title yet?
I think it will be called It's Whatever. Is that?
Well, we were thinking It's Whatever, and then we were going to call it Getaway because the song Getaway really kind of captures the full spectrum of us, so to speak. But then we've got another really rocking song called Party in Your Head, and like if you think about what happens between the headphones, maybe that would be an appropriate title. So something along those lines, but not finalized yet.
Okay, well, please let us know when it comes out because we want to. Maybe we'll get a chance to get you back on the podcast sometime later in the year.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
All right, well, Marcia, Chris, Paul, Beatty, thanks so much, Carolina Vibes, for coming on and sharing all your stuff and letting the rest of Charlotte know about you.
Yes,
man,
thanks
for having us, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a great day.
You too.
And that will bring episode 43 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com, and our newest partner, Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com. Until next month, be well and stay safe.